All right, Shalom. 1 second. All right, just want to make sure the mic was on. Shalom. First and foremost, before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors go out to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Teach well. Goodness gracious, Salakia. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Shalom wa barakim to you brothers and sisters out there. Damn, tongue-tied. I want to touch on the topic, and this is the brother Malachi, from Great Millstone, Nashville, just so, brothers know where I'm stationed at, so to speak. This is I wanted to touch on the topic of leprosy. All right, leprosy, which when you look up leprosy, it's going to show you, different skin conditions, but what's described in the Bible as leprosy is essentially vitiligo. All right, what's vitiligo? Let me actually pull up a couple pictures of that. Vitiligo. Loss of skin color. So you see, like, so-called black people or just brown-skinned people will lose pigment. And what does this dude look like? If you take away the rest of that pigment, what does he look like? A so-called white man. All right, of course, minus the hair and the facial features, but we're talking about the skin. All right, what does the skin on his hand look like? Pale skin, so-called white. All right, so this is literally the curse of leprosy. Because essentially, even the nation of Esau, Edom, which is technically, well, actually, Slaki, I should have saved that part for later in my explanation. Hold on, let me rephrase that. The nation of Edom, which today is collectively known as the so-called white people. So yeah, I still could have said that they're technically regarded as quote-unquote white people, but they're really just so-called black people with vitiligo. All right, when you want to, dumb it down. Because remember, Esau's father was Isaac and his mother was Rebecca. Right, so he wasn't, he wasn't, the so-called white people isn't a thing. Everybody on the earth was brown-skinned. Every nation had pigment. The nation of Edom did not, because their forefather Esau was cursed. Now, that does not mean that you won't have Israelites that look like so-called white people. That also does not mean that you won't have Edomites that look like so-called black people. All right, because we've had a lot of rape happen through the course of slavery and through just, mixing of the nations in general that has caused Edomites to gain pigment back. All right. But the initial Edomites, Esau and his descendants, they started, as so-called white. Okay. Caucasoid. All right. The so-called white man is Esau, Edom. All right. Which is why this is such a terrible curse. All right. When an Israelite receives vitiligo, or albinism, right, which is essentially the same type of thing. All right. This is a curse. All right, speaking, through experience, right? Because my family, they don't technically have vitiligo. We would just be considered so-called white. But as I'm explaining, that's literally the same thing. All right, it's literally the same thing. I'm the opposite of a chocolate-covered Edomite. I'm an Israelite, whose family has mingled and mixed with leprous people, essentially, with Esau, Edom, and it has caused our descendants to lose pigment. All right, so essentially inherit the curse of leprosy. All right, and Salaki, I'm not trying to confuse anybody. Right, but I'm just bringing out in this lesson the fact that pale skin or looking so-called white is actually a curse according to the Bible, and it's not something to be proud of. It's something to be ashamed of. All right, it's not something to be happy about. Okay, so let me go ahead and prove that. Yeah, Leviticus 13 deals with leprosy. There's also leprosy of the hair, which basically is blonde hair, and then leprosy of the eyes. You could say, even if I'm not mistaken, leprosy of the eyes would be like blue eyes. Right, but I'm actually don't take my word on that one. I'm not 100%. So I know we can't delete, what we physically say. So Salakia, I'm not gonna say that. The blue eyes, I don't know. I believe I heard it was leprosy eyes, but we're just, don't take my word for that. Just ignore that. Forget I said that. Leprosy of skin is pale skin. Leprosy of hair is blonde hair. Okay, which you can see these things. You can read this yourself. Leviticus 13, when it goes into leprosy, it goes into essentially the plague and how you would be determined clean. It goes into the leprosy of the hair as well. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and get a couple verses that show looking so-called white is actually a curse. All right. Now, first place I'm going to start is Numbers, the 12th chapter. All right. Numbers chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, "And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous white as snow." All right. So it shows that leprosy is pale skin. All right. "And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, At last, my Lord, I beseech thee," which all three of these people right here are siblings. All right, they're all from the tribe of Levi. They're all siblings. They're related. All right, Aaron is Moses' older brother, and Miriam, I don't remember Salaki if she's older or younger, but that is Moses' sister. All right, I'm pretty sure Aaron is the older brother. All right, but it says, "And Aaron said unto Moses," let me just double check that because I can definitely look that up. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Aaron was older. And according to this, it says that Miriam was the older sister, right, of both of them. Yep. Well, yeah, because that makes sense because the story, they were kids there, so, and he was a baby, or like toddlers and such, and he was a baby that was put in the river, so that makes sense. All right, but the point being, they're siblings. All right, it says Numbers 12 and 11. It says, "At last, I'm going to continue on. Well, I might as well start over. I didn't read much. "And Aaron said unto Moses, At last, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us wherein we have done foolishly and wherein we have sinned." Okay, so you can see that Aaron is expressing the fact that looking leprous, this is a judgment for iniquity. This is a judgment for going off. All right. It says, "Let her not be as one dead," because when you're dead, your color fades, right? "Of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb." So it didn't say when. So look, what is, especially verse 12, the second half, when it's talking about the birth of a baby, what is that telling you right there? That these are not so-called white people. All right, because so-called white people, they come out what? Red. All right, because they don't have any pigment. All right, so this is letting us know that the Israelites at the time were brown-skinned. And what they're telling you here is that when a baby comes out, they're, very light brown. All right, they don't, because their pigment hasn't fully developed. All right, as you can see with any Jake that has a kid, as the kid grows up, months or years pass on, they get darker. Okay, unless they're just, light skinned, but, your pigment develops. So it says, "And Moses cried unto Yahweh, saying, Heal her now, O God, I beseech thee." All right, so they're praying for her to be healed. And what do they mean by that? For her pigment to return unto her. Okay, we can also go to Exodus. If I could spell, we could go to Exodus. All right, wow. Here we go. Exodus chapter 4 and verse 6. "And Yahweh said furthermore unto him being Moses, Put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, Put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh." Okay? So obviously Moses wasn't pale, right? And you can't pull that card where they were tan from the sun. No, they actually had pigment, sun or not. All right, the Israelites could have been born and raised in Antarctica, and they'd still be brown skinned. It's not a tan. All right, the Israelites started out as so-called black, different shades of brown, which now we've been scattered. We've been mingled amongst the nations. We've been reclassified as different people because the Latinos and the Native Americans are both Israelites as well. What is Native American? Somebody that's native to the lands of America. What is Latino? Somebody that basically, their language, or their, their culture, their heritage, their land, whatever, it dealt with the Spanish, essentially to sum it up. All right, because Hispanic and Latino mean different things, but they can be applied to a lot of the same people. Like so-called Mexicans and so-called Puerto Ricans, they're both Latino and Hispanic. All right, but that's just essentially a kind of like a country. Being Latino, that's not a race of people. Even Esau tells you that. When you fill out job applications and school applications and things like that, it says, which race are you? Asian? Are you black? Are you white? And then it asks you, are you Hispanic or Latino? So that's not a race. So Jake is over, I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm Latino. No, Latino is not a thing. All right? You Latinos are so-called black people. Essentially, you're just different shades. Just like how you have light-skinned Jake. You got Southern Kingdom Israelites that are lighter than you, some of you Latinos, man. You're the same people, bro. And then Native Americans, a lot of them were reclassified as Negroes. So what does that tell you? Okay? Now it's not the same as the black-only Israelite doctrine. That's completely bugged out because the Israelites are not all so-called black-looking today. All right? But at the beginning, we all were different shades of brown. Essentially so-called black people. All right? From different tribes. You see? Different, we had different features and things like that, but you could tell that we were the same. We were one people. All right? But remember, too, our forefathers, they don't get caught up on looks, right? Because we go according to the patrilineal. You can see that clearly throughout the Bible, especially when people list their lineage. It goes through the men, the Bible, or not the Bible, the men, the patriarchy, all right, the patrilineal lineage, okay? The paternal lineage, rather. So it doesn't matter what your looks are, because if you didn't have the records proving that you came from whatever tribe, then that was, you couldn't really realistically say, yeah, I'm an Israelite, which is all, that goes into that Romans 8 and 16. This is all faith-based. We know only Israelites can understand this truth. So if you understand this truth, you are an Israelite, all right? But nonetheless, not to stir off too much, when you go into Genesis 25, because I'm kind of, squeezed on time just a little bit, so I'm going to kind of quote that. Genesis 25, it talks about Esau coming out, and he was red all over like an hairy garment. All right, so he was red, and the reason why it listed him and not Jacob is because that wasn't a common thing. It was something notable to put down in the scriptures, all right? Because he came out a so-called white man. He came out basically a so-called black man, but with leprosy, with pale skin, all right, with albinism, all right? But now I'm going to get this account with Cain, because this is essentially what this all goes back to, all right, showing that it's a form of punishment, all right, which this is the punishment that Cain had received for murdering his brother. All right, it says Genesis chapter 4, and I'm going to start at, let me get to the point. Basically, the Lord is interrogating him, even though, of course, Yahweh by Shemel Shai, Yahweh at the time, Salakia, already knew the answer. He was interrogating to see if he was going to be honest, which Cain was he was a liar too. He was a murderer and a liar. All right. So over here it says, so the curse. I'm going to start at 14. Genesis 4 and 14, it says, "Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And Yahweh said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahweh set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him." All right, and what is that mark? Obviously, it would be a physical mark, all right? It's not something spiritual. It's a physical mark. So what do you think this is? Leprosy. All right, this mark is leprosy. Okay? That's the mark of Cain, was leprosy, which if you can receive it in reincarnation, because reincarnation is in the Bible, Cain came back later as Esau Edom, and he was cursed with that same thing. All right. So there you go. And leprosy, once again, leprosy is also a curse that applies to Israelites as well. All right. It's a form of judgment. Just like the Lord will have people, born with deformities, or, born with mental, issues, or maybe, we know the judgment of the Lord, man. One of the judgments is leprosy. So just because you see an Israelite and it's like, yeah, that ain't no Israelite. That's a so-called white man. That's a so-called white woman. No, it's literally an Israelite with leprosy. Okay? Their family has been cursed with leprosy, essentially, by mingling with the nation of Edom. It's no different. It's the same fucking thing. It's just modern day. All right? Because you don't really see people, you're not going to see somebody, because judgment isn't necessarily speedily anymore. You're not going to see a so-called black man standing there. He robbed a store, and all of a sudden you see him turn pale. You're not going to see that. Okay? Everything, the Lord is more long-suffering with all the things he does. But, I mean, you could definitely see that. I'm not saying it's impossible by any means, but I'm saying you don't really see that. It's usually something somebody's born with, because remember, the scriptures let us know that we get judged in our next life for certain things. You'll get judged this life, of course, especially with death. But like, the scriptures talk about how under the place of under the sun is the place of judgment. We had, you die. Somebody could have been a serial killer or something. And you're like, well, nothing bad happened to them. They died peacefully in their bed at an old age. Yeah, but they went up to the spirit realm, were told the judgment, and sent into another body, typically 3 to 4 generations later, and now they have to live that judgment out. All right? So keep that in mind, for all of us too that believe, you brothers and sisters out there that believe, that look like heathens, this is a judgment. All right? This is a token of shame onto us, especially if you look like an Edomite. All right? But, don't let it discourage you, right? Because you remember, you have received this truth. You are an Israelite, and the Lord has love for you, right? Which is why he's leading you down this path of light. Okay? So Lord willing that this lesson was edifying. I don't want to, talk brothers and sisters head off. Before I close, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Shemel Shai, double honors to the apostles, elders, great millstone. Shalom.